بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تمسك بسنته بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Amma ba'd. After praising Allah Ta'ala and sending the salutations upon the Messenger alayhi salatu wassalam, and upon his family and his companions, and upon all those who follow upon his guidance into the establishment of the last day. To proceed, ya ikhwan, فتقدم مكتبة الإمام الشوكاني رحمه الله تعالى الباب الرابع أو الدرس الرابع للإمام العلامة المحدث أبي عبد الرحمن يحيى بن علي الحجوري حفظه الله تعالى، شرحا على كتاب إجماع للإمام ابن القطان رحمه الله تعالى. So the Maktab of Imam Shawkaanee, ikhwan, presents to you the fourth lesson of the fourth class from the explanation of the noble Imam Al-Allama Al-Muhaddith Al-Shaik Abuabdillah Yahya bin Ali Al-Hujooree, may Allah Ta'ala preserve him, as he explains the book of Consences written by the great Imam Ibn Qatan rahimahullah ta'ala.
ذكر أسمائه الحسنى وصفاته العلى. وأجمع أهل السنة وجمهور المعتزلة أن أسماء الله تعالى لا تؤخذ قياسا ولا لغة، بل يتبع فيها الإذن والإطلاق من قبل الله تعالى.
كلام طيب.
So the reader, one of the students of the Shaik Hafidhullah Ta'ala, he continues. He says, next chapter, ذكر أسمائه الحسنى وصفاته العلى. Chapter, the mentioning of Allah's lofty and honorable names and His esteemed and noble qualities and characteristics or attributes. He says, next point, the scholars of Ahl Sunnati wa Jama'ah and the Jumhur of Al-Mu'tazila and the majority, the Jumhur of Al-Mu'tazila, they are in agreement and consensus that the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are not derived by merely qiyas, nor by the language. He said, but rather this entails al-idhn, the permission, what itlaq, with regards to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then you hear the Shaykh, may Allah preserve him, continue or begin. He says this is some beautiful, beneficial speech.
مع السنة وجمهور المعتزلة على أن أسماء الله تعالى لا يؤخذ قياسا لا الأسماء ولا الصفات.
He says that Ahl Sunnati wa Jama'ah and the Jumhur of Al-Mu'tazila, likewise, that they're in consensus that the names of Allah Ta'ala, and then the Shaykh Yahya, he adds, the author mentions the names. Shaykh Yahya Hafidhullah, he says the names of Allah and the attributes of Allah are not derived from qiyas, nor are they derived from the Arabic language.
لا تأخذ بالقياس وإنما بأدلة توقيفية حتى هؤلاء الضلال جمهورهم أيضا أهل السنة أن الأسماء توقيفية.
He says that they're in agreement that these, the names of Allah and the attributes of Allah, that these are affairs of tawqifiyya, that they are based upon evidence, they're based upon istidlalat, they're based upon dalil. He says even these individuals of misguidance, he says the majority of them, that they agree to this likewise. He says, however, although the author wrote that, he said the scholars of Ahl Sunnah and the majority of the Mu'tazila, he says this part here, there was no need to mention that.
قال قدر الله سبحانه لا يجوز على ذلك الزيادة ولا النقصان أصلا.
توقيفية الأسماء والصفات كلها توقيفية على الدليل.
He says, so the author, the one reading upon the Shaykh, he continues. He says, and it's not allowed to add to the names of Allah, nor is it allowed to take away aslan and the origin from the names of Allah. And then the Shaykh, he cuts him off. He says once again, the names of Allah and the qualities of Allah, this is an affair of tawqifiyya. This is an affair that is based upon adillah. The person stops where the text stops. The person, he stops where the text stops.
لا بقياس ولا برأي ولا باستحسان.
He says this affair is not based upon qiyas, nor based upon the language, nor based upon one's opinion, but rather
الكتاب والسنة.
it is based upon the book of Allah and the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wassalam.
ويجمع العلماء على ما دل عليه الكتاب والسنة.
And he says, and that which the consensus is based upon the book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger عليه الصلاة والسلام.
وأهل اللغة لا يفرقون بين الرحيم والرحمن كما لا يفرقون بين الندين والندمان. ثم قيل لله سبحانه رحيم رحمن مع وجود الرحمة في غير حقيقته وصفة عن المبالغة.
So he continues to read the point, and he says, in continuation upon the Shaik, he says, and the people of the Arabic language, they do not differentiate between Al-Rahim and Al-Rahman. Translators note, meaning the wazn. The wazn of this word, Al-Rahim, is on the scale of Fa'il, and Al-Rahman is on the scale of Fa'alan. He says the people of the Arabic language do not differentiate between these two, just as they do not differentiate between An-Nadim and An-Nadman. He says, and it is said with regards to Allah, Rahimun, Rahmanun, Ma'a wujud al-Rahmah. He says it is said about Allah that He is Rahim and He is Rahman. He says with the existence of mercy, fi ghayri haqiqatin wa sihha. Although the existence of mercy, he says, fi ghayri haqiqa, outside of its reality, and its sihha, wasifatin ala al-mubalagha. And he said this is an adjective ala al-mubalagha that is given an addition, exaggeration to it. Now,
ثم قيل لله سبحانه رحيم الرحمن مع وجود الرحمة في غيره حقيقة. يعني لو قيل هذا رحيم وهذا رحيم، هذا عبد الرحيم والله رحيم، ايش منه شيء؟ ليس كمثله شيء.
He says, for example, the people of the Arabic language, they say this is Rahim, or Allah's Rahim and He's Rahman. He says, if you say, for example, that this one is the servant of the most merciful, and then this one is given the name Rahim, he's saying, what's the difference there?
وإن كانت هذه الرحمة في الإنسان حقيقية ورحمة الله سبحانه وتعالى متصف بها حقيقة.
He says, although this man who is named Rahim, he may have mercy in reality himself, and Allah Ta'ala himself is described with the most merciful, Rahim. But this man who is Rahim, who may be described with having mercy also in his reality, he says,
وصحة وصفة على المبالغة. يكون الإنسان رحيم صفة لائقة برحمته وصفة لائقة بضعفه، والله عز وجل رحيم صفة لائقة بعظمته وجلاله.
He says, although a person who's given this name, he says, in reality, he may be merciful, but he's weak. His mercy is not complete. But with regards to Allah, Allah is the all-merciful. So this shows the exact mercy of Allah that He possesses. That Allah is the one described with mercy. Al-Mubalagha. And this mercy is a lot. Is a mercy of an abundance.
قياس الأولى قاله ابن تيمية وما نحن المتقدمين ذكروه. تفضل.
وأجمعت الأمة من تخصيص هذا الوصف لله سبحانه. يعلم أن الأمر فيه يجري على ما ذكرنا، ويقولون في اللغة فلان جواد وفلان سخي، ولا يفرقون بينهما، وكل ما قالوا فيه أنه سخي قالوا فيه أنه جواد.
So one of the students, he continues reading upon the Shaykh. He says, as for the next point, and this ummah, they are in agreement that which is specific, the takhsis with regard to the descriptions of Allah, that they are known, that the command here, that this affair, it runs or is based upon what we have mentioned, meaning the names of Allah and the qualities or attributes of Allah. He says, and it is said in the Arabic language that such and such is jawadun, that he is generous, and such is sakhiyun, that he is that he is foolish, or the likes. He said, and they do not separate between the two. He said, so everyone who says this person is sakhi, it is also said that he is jawad. He says, as for the next point, that point there, the Shaykh didn't comment on that point. He allowed him to keep on reading. He says the next point, that they are in unison, in the consensus, that the descriptions of Allah subhanahu, that Allah Ta'ala is described with being Jawad, this name here, this description here, the scholars of Ahl Sunnah are in unison that Allah is described بأنه جواد, that He is the all generous.
ثم أجمعوا على منع وصفه بأنه
يجمعوا على وصف الله أنه جواد يحب الجود. حديث فيه كلام، لكن ما دام الإجماع قام على ذلك فجاء اسم الجواد في حديث 99 اسما من أحصاها دخل الجنة وهو جواد يحب الجود. الحديث الذي زيادة وهو جواد يحب الجود فيه كلام، سنقرأ كلام أهل العلم عليه من هنا.
He says that the Shaik Yahya continues. He says the scholars here are in unison that Allah Ta'ala has given this description Jawad. He says there's text to support that, but as long as the consensus is mentioned here, then there's no need to mention that. Then he goes on to mention that we're going to come across a hadith, and there's some speech regarding that hadith. He said, but we're going to mention that inshallah ta'ala. He said from that is that Allah Ta'ala is Jawad, and that Allah Ta'ala is described with generous, and He loves generosity.
أخرجه الحاكم من طريق خالد بن مخلد عن عبد العزيز.
He said, and this hadith here has been collected by the Imam al-Hakim from the way of Khalid ibn Makhlad. No.
بالحصين من الترجمان أيوب سختيان هشام بن حسان بن محمد بن سيان أبي هريرة.
He mentions the chain all the way back to Abi Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu.
وذكر له بعض الطرق.
He says this hadith has a few narrations, a few variances. He says, and likewise the consensus once again is there. He says, however, this narration that we just mentioned, that's collected by Al-Hakim, he says this narration here is weak. He says, one of the students, or rather the one reading upon the Shaik, he continues, as for the next point, that they also in consensus and in unison with regards that Allah Ta'ala is not described with being sakhiyun, that this description here is not allowed and is not accurate and is not correct, that Allah Ta'ala is described with being sakhi. No.
أسماء وصفات أجمع عليها على مضمون أدلة فيها كلام مثل هذا ومثل السكوت.
So he says here, there's some names of Allah, some attributes with regards to Allah that the scholars of Ahl Sunnah that they mention that has some speech, that when you look at the evidence you find that is not accurate, that the text does not point to the fact that it's authentic. He said like sakhi, like the fact that Allah, that He is silent and the likes. No. As some people they say that which Allah Ta'ala is quiet with regards to, He sakata anhu, that Allah didn't mention, or He's silent with regards to, that this is His pardon and the likes.
فما قام الإجماع على مضمون تلك الأدلة اللي فيها كلام يدل أنه له أصل ولا بأس أن يمر على ما أجمع عليه السلف.
He says, however, the fact that there's consensus in this regard, although the text might not be authentic, he says the fact that there's consensus in the likes of these shows that they do have an origin.
ثم أجمعوا على منع وصفه بأنه سخي فعلم أنهما يفترقان لا من جهة المعنى بل من جهة اللفظ وأن أحدهما مما أطلقته الأمة وأجمعت عليه دون الآخر فلذلك صار هذا دون ذاك.
He says in continuation, he says the Ummah, they are in consensus once again that is not allowed to describe Allah with sakhi. He says, so based upon this it is known that there's a difference between the two, Jawad and Sakhi. He said, and this difference is not from with regards to the meaning, but it's with regards to the expression itself. He said, and one of them is mentioned from the Ummah, and the other, the Ummah is in a consensus that is not the second. So one of them is allowed, and the other is not. So the Shaik says, for example, if we were to say, for example, Zayd is Sakhi, Jawad. He said, however, with regards to the text, it's not allowed to say that Allah is Sakhi. With regard to the creation, a person can say Zayd is Jawadun and he is Sakhiyun. He says, but it's not correct to say that Zayd, or with regards to Allah, that he is Sakhi.
فالإجماع قائم على أنه جواد، لكن لم يكن الإجماع على إطلاق هذا اللفظ على الله عز وجل لأنه صحيح.
He says once again, ya ikhwan, as we mentioned, that although these two have similar meanings, once again, the word jawadun, to be liberal or to be generous, and the word sakhiyun, once again, has a similar meaning, to be generous, to be liberal, to grant. He says, however, with regards to Allah, the word sakhi is not allowed to use. The word sakhi is not allowed to use. He said with regards to not with regards to the meaning, with regards to the expression of the word itself. One of them is allowed with regards to Allah, while the other is not allowed.
كما ممكن أن يطلق على الإنسان لا يطلق الإنسان أنه جواد سخي.
He says, as with regards to an individual, yes, you can say this person is jawadun, he is generous, he is sakhiyun, he is also similar. It's a similar type of generosity. You can use both of them with regards to the creation. With regards to Allah, no. He says, with regards to Allah, stopping where the text stops, because this effort is tawqifi, that since the text does not say that, you cannot say that Allah is sakhi. No. He says, based on the fact that there's no evidence to support this. Since there's no proof to support this, you cannot say that which you do not have the right to say.
قال ولا يمكن الفصل بين الأمرين إلا أن أحدهما مما أجمعت عليه الأمة دون الآخر، وأن أحدهما قد استأثر الله بتسمية نفسه بذلك دون صاحبه.
يا أخي يقول لو أتقدم كان يدق علي، والله ما لو قالت ما عندي ساحة ولا أتقدم إن شاء الله.
He says, continue on reading upon the Shaik. He says, so it is not allowed to separate both of them. He said, except that you understand that one of them, the ummah, is in consensus, that one of them is allowed with regards to Allah, and that is translated as note jawadun, while the other one sakhiyun, which is also translated as note to be generous, to be liberal, to give in abundance. This one is not allowed with regards to Allah. So one of these is a name that Allah Ta'ala has named himself with, and the other one it is not.
مما أجمعت عليه الأمة دون الآخر، وأن أحدهما قد استأثر الله بتسمية نفسه بذلك دون صاحبه، فعلم بهذا أن أسماء الله وأوصافه مأخوذة من طريق التوقيف الوارد في الكتاب والسنة والإجماع.
He says, so based upon this, it is understood that the names of Allah and the descriptions of Allah are derived from the way of tawqif, meaning, once again, that it is based upon the text from the book of Allah and the sunnah of the messenger of Allah. He says, based upon this, it is understood that the names of Allah and the qualities and attributes of Allah are derived from the min tariq tawqif, that they are tawqifiyya, based upon that which has been narrated from the book of Allah and the sunnah of the messenger of Allah, and based upon the ijma', the consensus.
فإن قيل ألستم تقولون إنه قديم فهل ورد بذلك توقيف؟ قيل هذا إجماع. فإن قيل أليس.
So now he reads the next point. He says, so continuing on his reading of the words of Ibn Qattan rahimahullah, he says, so if it said, do you not say that innahu qadim, that Allah is qadim? Do you not describe Allah with this sifa, this attribute, this quality? He says, then if it's said to, is this based upon tawqif, meaning is it based upon text? He said, if it said this is consensus, he says, and as he begins to read the next part, the Shaik cuts him off.
ألستم تقولون بأنه قديم فهل ورد بذلك توقيف؟ قيل هذا إجماع أنه قديم على المعنى لا على اللفظ.
He says, so now once again, if it said that Allah is qadim, and someone says to you, is this based upon tawqif, meaning is there text? And the person says, this is upon consensus. He says, talking about the meaning is based upon consensus, not the wording itself, not the expression itself.
أنه أول أما أنه يقال قديم بلا ابتداء هذا منتقد ولا يجمع في كونه.
He says, however, because the word qadim here means that he's the awwal, that he's the first, there was nothing before Allah. So as far as the meaning, qadim, there's consensus with regards to the word, the attribute, the description qadim, with regards to the meaning, not with regards to the actual expression itself, as there's no text to support that.
يسمى الله عز وجل قديم.
There's no text. It's based upon tawqifiyya, and there's no text that describes that Allah Ta'ala is qadim with this expression.
لا إجماع أن الله يسمى قديم ولا أن هذا يطلق عليه وإنما هو منتقد من القيم شيخ الإسلام وفي شرح.
He says the consensus is not that Allah Ta'ala is one of his attributes is that he's qadim. That's not the consensus. He says this is something that many of the scholars like Shaik al-Islam Taymiyyah and others have mentioned and has shown that this is not accurate, this is not correct, and they have went against that. Like Imam al-Tahawi, likewise, rahimahullah, Shaik al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Qayyim and the likes, they established that this is not an authentic name and quality or attribute from the names and qualities of Allah.
فيكون أجمعوا على إلى هذا إجماع أي أن الله عز وجل أول.
He says, so that which the consensus is based upon here is that the meaning of qadim has the same meaning as awwal, not the expression.
إجماع على أنه قديم الكلام هنا معنى الذي يغني عنه اللفظ الصحيح لا دليل. فلا يفهم من هذا أن لفظ القديم مستعمل بالإجماع.
He says, so it's not understood here that the expression, the word itself, qadim, that this is that which the scholars are in unison with regards to la. This is not the intent, ya ikhwan. He says, is this understood?
بالقدم يوصف بالأول قديم يعني بسلطانه القديم لكن كلمة أن الله عز وجل يقال عنه قديم لا.
He says, as the question, as one of the students posed, you can't really hear the question, but the Shaik elaborates, and he says, as for the expression itself, that Allah described, or He is described with qadim, by being qadim, he says, la, this is not correct. But the word qadim can have the meaning as awwal.
يقال سلطانه قديم.
He says, it is said, sultanuhu qadim, that Allah's sultan, that Allah's, that which He possesses, His kingdom and the likes, is qadim. No.
كأنهم بنوا عليه هذا الإجماع. تفضل.
فإن قيل أليس جهم يخالف في ذلك؟ قيل إن جهما مسبوق بالإجماع وعد قوله هذا بدعة لأنه خالف.
جهم يخالف في أن الله أول وأن الحوادث حصل لها طرأ عليها أمر.
وأجمعوا على أن اشتقاق الأسامي والأوصاف من كل أفعاله غير حاصل.
He says, as for the next point, and they give their consensus, the scholars of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, that they are in unison, and they give the consensus with regards to the fact that the names of Allah and the descriptions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they are not hasil, and the Shaykh is going to explain.
أن اشتقاق الأسامي والأصابع غير حاصل يعني منها تشتق منها صفات ومنها ما لا تشتق. تنبه لهذا يعني ما كل اسم تشتق منه صفة هذا غالبا.
He says, meaning that not every name of Allah Ta'ala that is derived from it a sifa, derived from it a characteristic. That this is not the situation, this is not the affair. Some names of Allah that there's a sifa derived from them, and there's some names of Allah that a sifa is not derived from them.
وبعضها قد يكون اشتقاق الأسامي والأوصاف من كل أفعاله غير حاصل أجمعوا على أن اشتقاق الأسامي والأوصاف من كل أفعاله غير حاصل.
He says, so the consensus of Ahl Sunnah is that with regards to all of the actions of Allah, regarding the qualities and characteristics of Allah, that from all of them names and descriptions are not hasil, meaning are not derived. That you can't take the names of Allah or each name of Allah and derive from the name of Allah qualities and characteristics, sifat.
الأصل أن كل اسم تشتق منه صفة.
He says the origin is that every noun, every characteristic that is derived from it, a noun. He says this is the origin.
وإن وجد بعض الأفعال ما تشتق منها صفة نقول.
He says, however, there's some qualities of Allah, some of Allah's actions, his actions, that the sifat are not derived from them.
قلنا من ذلك.
وأجمعوا على أن اشتقاق بعضها من بعض
يكون عبارة عن خبر كأنه خبر.
وأجمعوا على أن اشتقاق بعضها من بعض حاصل والتمييز بينهما مقصور على التوقيف الوارد في الكتاب والسنة.
He says, as for the next point, and the consensus of the ulama, he says, is that the scholars of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they are in unison, once again, they are in consensus, that some of the names of Allah, some of them, it is derived from them qualities and attributes, that this is hasil, from some of them, not all of them. He says, and the differentiating affair here is that it arrives at that which is tawqifi, based upon the text from the book of Allah and the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wassalam.
قال ذكر انقسام الأسماء والصفات وأسماء الله تعالى وصفاته تنقسم أقساما فمنها ما أجمع على أنها من صفات الذات ومنها ما أجمع عليه.
منها ما أجمع عليه أنها من صفات الذات.
He says, as for the next point, he says, ذكر انقسام الأسماء والصفات. He says, mentioning the categories and the various types. And perhaps we'll save this one for the next lesson, inshallah, as the adhan has been pronounced. He says, the mentioning of the categories and various types of names of Allah and His sifat and His qualities and descriptions. He says, the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His descriptions are divided into categories. From among them are those that which the ummah are in consensus, they are in unison with regards to, that they are from the descriptions of Allah Himself. Min sifati al-that. Min sifati al-that. That from them is that which describes Allah Himself. And from them are those that's the ummah of Ahl Islam, they are in consensus that they are from sifat al-fi'l, that they are from the descriptions of the actions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Shaik says here, for example, when you say from them are those that are from the descriptions of Allah, His that, Himself. He says like al-wajh, that Allah has a wedge, that Allah has a face. Like al-yad, that Allah has a hand. Or that Allah has yadain, two hands. He says like Allah has a qadam, Allah has a foot, was-saq, and Allah has a shin, and the likes. He says these and other than them are examples of min sifat al-dhati, that which is a description of Allah Himself, where the description is describing Allah Ta'ala. No. He says, and from these affairs are that which shows that the ummah and the scholars of Ahl Islam are in unison and consensus that these descriptions are from sifat al-fi'l, that they are from the descriptions of the actions of Allah. He says, and then the Shaik Yahyaa Hafidullah, he interjects, he says like the anger of Allah. This is not describing Allah Himself, but it's describing the action of Allah, His anger. Likewise His pleasure.
ومنها ما اختلفوا فيه فمن قائل أنها من صفات الذات ومن قائل أنها من صفات الفعل.
He says, and his continuing this point upon the Shaykh, he says, and from them is that which the scholars they differ amongst themselves with regards to. But some of the people of knowledge they say this description here is from His sifati that it describes Allah Himself, while other scholars they say that this affair is from sifati al-fi'l, that it describes the action of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
والصحيح أنها من صفات الذات ومن صفات الفعل أيضا مثل الكلام.
He says, and that which is correct is, Shaik Yahya says, that which is correct is that sometimes they are from that which describes himself and his action. He says, like his speech, like his kalam. He says once again, like his anger. His anger here in reality is a description of his that, himself, and a description of his action. He says like rida, the description of his pleasure and him being pleased is a description of himself, his that, likewise his action. He says the likes of these, it can be said that they are his sifat al-that and they are sifat al-fi'l, that they describe himself and that they describe his action. No. So inshallah ta'ala, we'll stop here inshallah ta'ala. And the last point that we mentioned, ya ikhwan, was the names of Allah ta'ala and his descriptions, that they are divided into categories. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وجزاكم الله خيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.